All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. We are so honored that you decided to come and attend our session on the 2%. My name is Jerome Price. I teach within Montgomery County Public Schools, and my brother.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cedric Price. I'm a current graduate student at George Mason University, where I'm pursuing my MED in curriculum and instruction, looking to enter the profession to be a K-6 elementary school teacher. I'm excited to be here with you all today.
Excellent. So to start things off, we thought it would be helpful to give you some background, right, in terms of what our story is and what ultimately brought us to the field of education. Born and raised in a city in New Jersey, Rome, New Jersey, and my experience in elementary school was very racially diverse school that I attended in my neighborhood. I had students of all different backgrounds. So elementary school, K-5, was extremely diverse. When I went to middle school, that's when I noticed the difference. And I remember it like yesterday, my English class, 6th grade English, I was the only Black male student. And no one said anything to me about it, but it was something that was very obvious and very clear to me. And that was literally the case from 6th grade up until senior year when I was in AP English, and I was the only Black male in my class in a school of which was majority minority. K-12 experience, I only had one Black male teacher. And my first experience of a Black male teacher was actually in middle school. I never had him, but there was a teacher known as Doc who taught 6th grade math, and he was very professional, always wore a suit to school. And I wanted to take his class so badly. I never got that experience. And so I wanted to be, Doc Spalding, right? I wanted to be that teacher who made a difference in the lives of other students. And today I teach high school history within the county.
Yeah, and I know for my story, it has some similarities with Jerome's, but for myself, my K-12 experience was one where, the student population was pretty diverse throughout, from kindergarten up until graduating for high school. And that was pretty cool just to have that and to experience that. And when I kind of reflect over that, really up until my senior year of high school, when we graduated, I actually can remember, and I remember people saying that, that first row of the senior class officers, of the top 10, and of the National Honor Society, it was pretty diverse, where we had, students of different backgrounds up in that front row, and just pretty much, at that status, and even throughout the entire school. And it's just pretty to kind of hear people say, like, this is amazing. It's great to see how throughout these years we can kind of see diversity represented, and just Black students excelling, and just kind of really being here and just doing great things in their school. And, that was the case for the student population. But on the other hand, in regards to the teaching staff, that wasn't necessarily the case, because I know for myself, we didn't really have too many Black teachers in our schools, but I do remember having one, and that was actually in high school, and we had one who's Mr. Bunyan, and I had him for a business class, and he was also actually one of the track coaches, and he was a great teacher, and students just came to him to talk to him, to just really hang out, just to kind of talk about personal life, professional life, their academics. And just seeing that connection, that energy, and that engagement kind of also put in my head, like, wow, that's also something that I want to see when I become a teacher as well. And, just growing up in that town of Rahway, just being there for kind of my entire K-12 experience, and just growing up there and getting involved and staying active, it's really just kind of wanted to move me forward into the teaching profession as I stayed engaged and got involved. But that's a little bit about my story right there.
So we wanted to give you some historical context to just public schools in this country and highlight a few schools. So Boston Latin School is a school to note. It's actually the first public school in the United States. Starts off educating white males almost exclusively, whether you were rich, wealthy, whether you were poor, That was the focus. If you were a woman, you could attend private school, but at home, you didn't have a place at Latin school. Interestingly enough, the first Black graduate at Latin school would be Parker Bailey, class of 1877. So almost 250 years after the first public school opened its doors, you would see the first Black students have an opportunity at this school. Very telling. Years later, when we talk about, and I'm just highlighting a few points here, the Reconstruction period, after slavery, when we think about an enslaved population, right, of Black people who were denied systemically access to educational opportunities, Reconstruction, which is one of the most or should I say, periods where we don't talk as much about, that had so much power and strength, was designed to speak to that need, right, of educating, of freeing, of transitioning African Americans into the larger world. And so we would see African Americans who were denied access to reading, to writing, a place in the school system. Do notice that it's not like our schools today where we have students divided by age, grade levels, right? You would have school rooms, schoolhouses that would have many people, a variety of age ranges being educated by oftentimes a single teacher. Paul Laurence Dunbar High School is a school to note. 1870, it is the first Black public high school in the United States, Washington, D.C., not too far from where we are right now in the county. And so Dunbar is founded in 1870, 4 students, a basement, and a church. Students were top-notch. Graduates would go on to schools like Harvard, Brown University, Oberlin. The challenge is after they left college, no one would hire them. No one gave them opportunity. And so you had all these folks with PhDs with nowhere to go. And so Dunbar High School would oftentimes hire those students. And it was amazing to watch because you would see gifted, right, very well educated Black people educating other Black children. The downside to that is that those folks weren't given the opportunity to enter other fields and professions. And so just imagine, right, the access, the changes that could have happened in this country if folks had the exposure to other Black graduates, professionals.
Definitely. And, the historical context that was just shared, it's all very important. And when we realize that, I kind of want to now lead into this point that's just really on the slide that says, since our country's founding, the American public school teaching force has remained largely white and female. And with the previous points being really important, this is also another important point. And I want to really lead this into the next question of just asking of what's on this page right here. And just for starters, everyone's experience is always a unique one. And that's important to kind of keep in mind. But when we think about our educational experience, and even the time that we went to school, it's likely to look different for people, and the idea of it being unique. And realizing that, I kind of want to just now briefly ask for a moment for everyone to just think about your K-12 educational experience and just ask yourself, how many of your teachers were Black? And just for a moment, if anyone wants to go out and share, does anyone have a response for that? How many of your teachers were Black men? I know for myself, I actually only had 3, I think, Black male teachers present in my K-12 experience. For some, it's less, for some, it's more. I know someone mentioned in the chat 4. Okay, that's a number. Someone said 0. And we see how those numbers are kind of low compared to, again, from even pre-K to 12th grade, what that looks like. And when you think about high school, you have about 7 to 8 different classes. And still, by only having 0 or 1 or 2 or 3, we can see how those numbers are still really minimal compared to the number and the stats in the previous slide of it being dominated by white females. And that's not to say that that's a bad thing, but it's just to say that we have to kind of change and move forward in a different direction to really support our students and to provide them with that experience. And again, people of color, they make up about 20% of the teaching force, 20%. That number's not more than half, it's less. It's only, 1 out of 2. When we think about that and move forward, of all the teachers in the United States, 2% are Black men. So we have to really work to talk about this 2%, tackle this 2%, and think about, what does this mean? What are we doing? What can we do? And really just think about it in that sense. As you can see, we have a few more graphs right here. It's really just 2 graphs really comparing some different statistics. And as you can see, it's really highlighting, a lot of information here. But if you really just kind of focus on, the Black percentage for students compared to teachers, you can kind of see what's being detailed, what's being shown, and how that kind of can translate and relate as we look at it on this graph and also into reality.
Thanks, Cedric, for that. Nice data analysis points and getting us through that discussion. When we think about the state of Maryland and data points, students and teachers, the demographics, give me a few seconds to look at the charts here. Something that you see, something that you notice, feel free to put it in the chat. But our student populations are much more diverse than our teaching force, clearly here, right? Where we see, Black student population and the white student population relatively similar, right? There are a little more white students than there are African-American students, but it's not by that much in terms of percentages. When we think about the teaching demographics, there's a very different reality where white teachers account for about 75% of the teaching force in this state. And when we think about Black teachers, that's not even 20%. Clearly, we see major differences in the realities for both of these groups. And I would say this, imagine what our schools would be like if the numbers to the left were reflected in the numbers to the right, where we're equal, we're even. I do want to point out this stat, 1 in 5 Maryland schools, right? 20% do not have a single Black teacher. I'll repeat that. 1 in 5 Maryland schools do not have a single Black teacher. So you could have a student, first grader, third grader, right? They go through their whole experience, preschool to 5th grade or 6th grade in some cases for elementary schools, and not come in contact with one Black teacher. I find that problematic. Closer to home, when we think about, and I can only speak to data in my county as a local example, MCPS, students versus teachers, right? When we think about what this looks like, for every category, we see the student diversity higher than the professional staff, with the exception of white students and teachers. I mean, the numbers are clear, right? The data is there. Clearly, we have an overrepresentation and an underrepresentation within our schools. And thank you for those numbers, Mr. Jones. I think those are very telling. When we think about the changes, and this is an example for Montgomery County, but there are many districts that mirror these numbers. We're looking from 1970 to 2017, roughly this 50-year period. What does the county look like? We start off as a very white district, overwhelming majority white students. Over time, that changes. We see a major decline that happens around the 80s, early to mid 80s. And right now we're at a very diverse standing in terms of our numbers. I mean, we're not even for each group, but we're very close to it. Why do these numbers not mirror these numbers? Oftentimes, student populations tend to become more diverse than our teaching staffs. And so that's definitely something that stood out. Bring it even closer to home. I mentioned earlier, as we were coming in, my brother, Cedric Price, recently graduated George Mason University. I attended George Mason University for grad school. That's myself crossing the stage, 2014 to the left. My last graduate school education course at Mason, I was the only African-American and I was the only male in my class. Cedric?
Yeah, thank you.
What did
Yeah,
we find out recently?
yeah. And I just graduated. I'm also enrolled in my master's program. This is my second semester of mentoring. And for myself, I'm the only African American and the only male in my class as well. And that speaks a lot right there as well.
It's something we really didn't even talk about until, what was that, last week?
Yeah.
We realized we had such similar experiences, and clearly we didn't graduate the same year. There's some space. So what are our top 10 reasons? Because we believe that every school needs to have Black male teachers, not just one, right? But a number of Black male teachers within their schools. I think we have a moral obligation to ensure that our nation's teaching force is racially diverse. And I think we owe it to our students. So we have a top 10 list. We're just going to go through it and share our points. Ted, you can start us off.
Thanks, Jerome. Yeah, of these 10, we're going to start off with this one right here. And it just clearly states that, Black male teachers are great role models and mentors. That's our number 10 right now. We're going to start with that. And, with that point, students really absolutely benefit from having Black male teachers. They just do. And something else I want to share is that, with Black male teachers being present, they serve as role models and mentors, which really leads to, lower dropout rates, with fewer disciplinary issues, with more positive views of school and better test scores. Those are some of the stats and some of the outcomes that we have when we have Black male teachers serving in our schools, because they serve as role models, they serve as mentors. And, we see these as the effects of positive figures of role models that they serve. And, Black male teachers are really going to impact the lives of students by being in our schools. So that's our number 10 that we're going to start off with.
Thanks, Cedric. Number 9, simply put, representation matters. Black students need to be able to see themselves in their teachers. There's a reason why I wanted to have, I mentioned earlier, Doc Spalding, right, the 6th grade math teacher, right, the first Black teacher I ever came in contact with, saw. I never took his class, but I just saw him in our building, right? The fact that I saw this man within the education system and wanted to be in his class so badly speaks to the fact that we don't have this kind of representation in all of our schools, right? And students need to see themselves, right? Seeing someone, right, makes it a little bit more attainable that you can do it and have access, right, to this particular field. Cedric, you want to take number 8?
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks, Jerome. And number 8, it pretty much just states that studies show that when boys of color have male educators of color, they are more likely to graduate from high school and have a greater chance of pursuing a 4-year college degree. This is so true. And even, Vice President Kamala Harris even states this fact a lot. And, with this, I was actually thinking about another article I was reading before, and I wrote it down. And, Johns Hopkins University, they were doing some research, and they found that having just one Black teacher in elementary school significantly increased a low-income Black student's likelihood of graduating from high school and even considering college. And that's an important point right there. And to even take it further and put it into perspective, the high school dropout rate for low-income Black boys reduces by 39% as a result of having a Black male teacher. We want to see declines in that area, because that's where we see gains in that area. And that's really important. Black male teachers also raise college aspirations among poor students of both sexes by 19%. So we see how there are positive declines, but positive increases. So we see where this kind of come into play. And with that, we'll just kind of go into the point number 7.
Thanks, Cedric. Number 7, Black male teachers, simply put, reinforce positive racial identity. Black men, we know, they're not a monolith, right? There's a range of experience. There's a range of perspective, right? The media can oftentimes overemphasize our role in the culture, whether it's in sports, whether it's in music, and that's all good, but we do it all, right? And so why not give students that context, right? Why not give them the opportunity to see someone in front of them every single day consistently, right? Who's in this position and can, again, provide this positive view of what it means to be not just a teacher, right? Not just a teacher of color, right? But a Black teacher, and specifically a Black man. Too often, Black men are seen through the lens of criminality, right?
Definitely.
Number 6.
Hit on that one. And to continue with number 6, it just states that teaching provides an opportunity for Black men to serve as examples for other aspiring Black male teachers. With us already knowing that Black male represent only 2% of the entire teaching force, the current Black male teacher serves to be an example and even inspire others to join the profession. When students are exposed to this, they can be inspired. And when they are inspired, they are encouraged to get involved in the field of education, which leads to several gains for our students, as mentioned. And the perspectives, the ideas, and views of Black teachers, it's really all necessary when students are inspired to early on to join in, and that impact begins to really be made. So this number 6 point is just as important as the other ones. And with that, we're going to move on to number 5.
The point on curriculum. Black male teachers bring a level of critical consciousness to their classrooms that cannot be overstated. And they have the power. And oftentimes, if given the opportunity, can shape their department and they can shape their school curriculum. I can speak from a personal example for this. Being a teacher of history, understanding that the textbooks out there, many of the books out there, right, come from a white supremacist, right, lens, right? And oftentimes it takes work to destroy stereotypical narratives that our students are consuming, whether it's in elementary school, middle school, or high school. What content can you bring to the table? What personal experiences can you bring to the table? I'd argue that African-American men have unique experiences, right, that can assist and enrich the lives of students through departments and school curriculums. A couple of years ago, as a high school history teacher who teaches US history, we studied the civil rights movement. It can be easy to use just the textbook, right? But I had a conversation with my department chair, right? And we made it possible for our school to adopt the March book, which is a graphic novel series that was written by John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis. And students get a chance to learn not just about King, not just about Rosa Parks, they're phenomenal folks, but Reverend James Lawson, right? Diane Nash, right? John Lewis, folks who are behind the scenes, some known, some not very well known, and learn their stories and allow that to add to their knowledge base as historians. We also took a field trip and got a chance to meet Congressman Lewis 1 year before he passed away. That intentional kind of work happens. And when you have a Black male in the classroom, right, those experiences are going to be there. So I'd argue, let's give them the opportunity to do that type of work, to do that type of leadership. Cedric, you have number 4.
Yes, thank you. Number 4, Black students gain greater access to gifted programs where there are Black teachers. All children and those who are from wealthy families are more likely to be identified as gifted. Now, this is an important point. This is actually something I've been learning about in some of my readings in one of my grad programs, and I found it really striking. And I said, let me do some more research to this point. But as we prepared for this, I said, we got to talk about this one as well. And, gifted and talented programs, they allow students to really receive services connected to enrichment, special classes, and even partake in special projects that just allow them to really excel in their skills. And that's great. But is this opportunity being provided to all students? Are we not under-identify students who should be in these programs. How is this looking? And this is really an important point. And even to go further, Black and Latino and Hispanic students are usually under-identified in these programs. And with that, the idea of the giftedness gap kind of exists because we aren't really accurately determining who gets to go into these programs, and we aren't really monitoring that in an appropriate manner. And in tackling this gap, when high achieving Black students are taught by Black teachers, they are just as likely to get assigned to a gifted program as similar high achieving white students. And that's something to really point out and to really consider and to think about. And really, in all with this point, the presence of Black male teachers can give an eye to equity and really serve to identify students of color too for these advantageous programs, because they get access, they get opportunities when they are enrolled and when they get to participate in these programs. But when we're under identifying, that pushes them back, and that even kind of goes into the idea of the achievement gap. So we really want to consider these ideas.
Cedric, there is a perspective. There's a social perspective. There's a political perspective. There's an economic perspective that Black men hold, they carry with them. When I go to a classroom and I drive to my school and I teach, I'm not just teaching right from a lesson plan, slides that I put together. I'm taking my experiences as a Black male when I teach in my classes, and I'm allowing those experiences, right, to inform, right, to shape, right, the work that is coming in and throughout all of my classes. Students may or may not be struggling academically, socially within schools, right? But that perspective, regardless of where students are, it often meet students and provide positive reinforcement.
Definitely. Thanks, Jerome. And number two, teaching staffs need to be diversified to reflect the diversity of our schools and our country. To this point, it's not only enough for there to be diversity throughout the student population, but it's just as important throughout the teaching staffs. And you can see a graph here that's being displayed. And I encourage you to take a moment to look at that. But as you view that, our schools really just have to be a representation of who we are serving. There is no idea of a perfect school or the right school, but a school is meant to serve the needs of its community. And if a community is, made up of a certain population of students, it needs to meet the needs of that. And diversifying and really just having representation of Black teachers, of Black male teachers, is really going to help in doing that. And, diversifying teaching staffs brings them a diversified experience that reflects and prepares students for post-school as well. And that's really important to really throw out there.
And the number one reason, students of all races, not some races, but all races, benefit from seeing and having Black male K through 12 teachers. Simply put, there's no question about this. Everybody, we know this, right? The reality is that all of our students are not always going to be our students. They're going to leave our classrooms. They're not going to always be fifth graders, eighth graders, seniors in high school. They're going to move on. They're going to be future policy leaders. They're going to be doctors, future attorneys at law. They're going to be our professional sports team managers. They're going to be our law enforcement officials. They're going to be our restaurant managers. They're going to be our future teachers. And they need to have authentic, well-informed experiences with Black men. I'll repeat that. They all need to have informed, authentic experiences with Black men. Black men are often seen through the lens of criminality, unfortunately. Imagine if every member of Congress had a Black male teacher, had 5 Black male teachers, had 10 Black male teachers from kindergarten, preschool, up until they graduated high school. Imagine how their ideas, their consciousness about issues affecting specifically the African-American community may be. African-American kids certainly need to have and see Black models for them in front of the classroom. but every student needs this. They need that experience. So I don't care if we're talking about in an urban school district, a rural school district, a suburban school district, from Washington, D.C. to California, Maine, Texas. We need to be everywhere. Because when we're everywhere, right, when we have that impact and that connection to students, right, the work is going to be done. And I'm not talking about assessments in classrooms. I'm talking about the work of policies and, you know, the healthcare industry system, right? Making sure folks have access and are treated fairly, right? It comes with exposure. So with that said, we couldn't end this session without having you take a look at your work. Where are you? Whether you're a principal, a teacher, a student, a supervisor, a parent, maybe this is the first time you've heard about bond, and this is your first session, I don't know, right? You have a sphere of influence. And our question to you is, what are you prepared to do? Not what can you do? What will you do to increase the 2%? Because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I don't want to read headlines that say Black men are only 2% of the teaching force. I want to see that 10%. I want to see it at 15%. Why can't we do that? I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about that. And if there are any folks who'd like to share their thoughts, their ideas, please do so, either by muting yourselves or putting it in the chat. We'd really like to hear your thoughts and perspectives.
Hello. My name is John Bailey. I'm aspiring at right now. I think it's good to hear and to reassure how important it is for me to go into the field of education. It's something I'm passionate about. And, you know, just hearing this information, understand the importance of it. You know, seeing the statistics, and just understand that, you know, we not only benefit one group, we benefit all students. I think that's really important to hear, because it lets me know, you know, I'm not just, you know, I can benefit everybody, and that's how important I am. That I just don't benefit one group, I benefit everybody. I think that's crucial to hear. So thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Bailey. And you were going to be, there's no doubt in my mind, you're planning on entering the profession?
Yes, I actually want to be a social studies teacher.
All right, you're right in my lane. I teach history too. You're in the right field, and there are going to be students. I know students who need to see you, they need to hear from you, and you're going to be great. So, if there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. But
thank you.
I'm so happy that you're inspired to hear you say that. So thank you. I'm looking in the chat right now. Mr. Jonathan Jones committing to creating spaces in person, virtually, print to uplift Black male educators in the USA. Thank you for that, sir. And I saw your comment too in the app. So feel free if you want to speak to that in a moment. John Howard, recruitment, getting a seat at the leadership table to making decisions on hiring, right? There are folks who want to teach. Let's make sure those opportunities are available. And for folks who are thinking about it, contemplating it, sharing those experiences, right? And when they're ready for it, right? And providing that space for them to jump right in and move into those classrooms. So thanks for that, sir.
I have a quick question. So right now, I'm the president of Inspiring Educators at my school, go to Community College of Baltimore County. And what I'm working with my school to start up a mentoring program at a local high school. Hopefully we can expand that to work with to try to get more males of color in the initiative. And one thing I really wanted to home in on was really working with underperforming students, because I know myself, I was a reluctant learner as I learned the term, and those are the students I feel as though could make the best teachers, because they are the ones underserved. And they know they want something better, and they want to give their students something better. But anyway, what do you have any strategy or ways we can get more Black males and on the high school and possibly middle school level because we're trying to work with the TAM program, but we're not having many males that go into the Teacher Academy of Maryland program. But I feel as though we have to find a way to get the students that's outside the program. What are some best ways or strategies that you can suggest that we can go about doing that?
Yes, Cedric, you want to take this one? Because I know you led a group at Mason.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right.
I can share it in a moment. We can talk more after, definitely. But I started a chapter at my school called Educators Rising Collegiate, and we established it. It's about 30 members strong now for future teachers. But some of the things that we've done is just really connecting with other orgs, connecting with cultural orgs around campus, connecting with Black-related organizations around campus. And we've just really been building those networks and connections so that we can grow our name out and also get people who aren't interested in education and then see what it's all about. We've been really just doing a lot of IG live conversations to get exposure, and that brings people's attention to us. We've been connecting with community-based organizations, help kids out that way, get involved that way, because the community is where we need to be present and around. Just get connected with those high schools and just connect with those guidance counselors, see what can we do to support the kids, because once you can kind of get your name in the door and just help out in a little bit, you can help out a lot more. So start around you, start with like neighboring organizations, just partner with something, just say we want to co-present, co-do something, and just kind of get your name out there. And I say start that way, and you'll grow that way.
Okay, thank you. That's nice to hear, because I actually started up the chapter at my school. So I'm trying to do as much as I can while I'm in the position I have.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, and I think we're gonna have our contact on a few moments, so definitely stay connected with me that way. We can talk some more.
Yes, gentlemen, if you can you put your emails, contact info? Oh, there you go.
Yes.
You all on point, man.
We'll add the email. You want to add your email too, Sid? I'll put mine in.
If you all want to drop it in the chat.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat right there for you.
All right.
So just reach out to me. My email's in the chat. We're on Twitter. You can follow us. You can message us there. But I'm inspired by the stuff that I'm hearing, the ideas that are being shared here. And what I'll just say is keep doing what you're doing, and know that there's a community of brothers who are excited and are supportive, and will do what we can to support you to get you where you need to be. So thank you all.
Excellent job, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Everyone who's still here, we have the wrap up at 3:10. You can just go there, click on the link on Hoover or through the Bond website, and that's it. Thank you again, the Price brothers.
No problem.
All right, thank you, sir.
afternoon.
Appreciate you all.
Have a good one.
Thank you.